If so, I will sign the thing today. Let's do it. Let's do it. Well, he's here. Dadgummit. I knew he was out yesterday from media reports, but okay. We missed our window of opportunity yesterday.
Would have been a good idea.
Lesson learned. Lesson learned. I'm going to turn it over to Chairman Hall, unless, Mr. Speaker, you want to say anything before we get started.
Mr. Pro Tem, Senators, thank you for your time today. Obviously, a lot of work goes into this budget. Appreciate everybody's start time this morning. I am going to have to exit for for constituent meeting, but Chairman Wallace is authorized by the Speaker and the caucus to continue on putting together negotiations for the House on the budget. Once again, I hope we stay at it and get it cranked out today. I appreciate everybody's work. So at that, Mr. Pro Tem, thank you, Chairman. You just text me if you need anything. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'll turn my chair over to your vice chair.
All right. Chairman Hall, you want to get started? Let's go.
Yeah, that's fine. So nice to have everybody in the room today. I noticed that you all have your subcommittee chairs here, which would be helpful, as do I. I would just as we go forward through these things, I think that as needed, if we need to call on a subcommittee chair, I'm fine with doing that and have those conversations. Chairman, the last time we met, we had kind of worked our way down in natural resources through the Department of Agriculture. We can revisit some of those items if you would like that we failed to make some agreement on there, or we could just start right on down with what is my next section, which is OSU vet med.
Absolutely. We do need to readdress some of the items that were tabled for you guys to have additional discussion. This particular day, I would like to pull up the House portal, the website for the budget, and then we can get started and start working off that. Talking about working line by line, I'm in agreement with that. One thing I'd like to mention, and John, if you would blow that up just a little bit, the portal is updated. You can actually look under a section there of the updates. I want to show this to the public, and you can go back and look at all the changes that have been made over the course of time and budget negotiations and changing positions. But I just want to point that out as you want to public look at this and navigate through the changes and where we're at today as we continue to negotiate and work on the budget. This too will be updated and changed as we move along. Typically, we update this every Friday. We have made updates this week in the middle of the week, so I wanted to point that out as well.
So just a quick note, we have posted our sheet online. We also forwarded you and your staff, John, a copy of this. We also forwarded to the governor's office, and we have it posted online on our website.
Transparency is definitely what we're after. I did receive that 30 minutes before this meeting. Thank you for that. I believe that as we go through this, we'll both see if everything lines up or not and be able to move forward. I would like to start today on the miscellaneous and supplements at the very back of the budget and start working through the process line by line. I think we'll be able to make greater movement to an agreed to position whenever we're looking at some of the larger values that are in disagreement within the budget. So if that's acceptable with you, I'll just start at the top of the page here. REAP, we're in agreement, 30 mil each.
So we're not on natural resources. We're on the true last, what your last page is.
Yeah, under miscellaneous and supplemental.
Do you have a copy of your
We're looking these different.
Because I'm not looking at that document. My eyes are.
Or do we have an extra copy?
Yes.
I appreciate that. Can I have something to?
Yep. You got an extra copy? What's that? What copy?
Sorry, do we have that?
No, ours are all low.
And you guys have an extra copy of your sheet as well if you're working on it.
Yeah, we have one.
Yes.
Will has it.
Internal working document.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I think we may list our subcommittee to subcommittee, so if you just tell us which subcommittee you're on or which agency, we can follow along from ours, I believe.
Be easier for us, yes.
You bet. Let me know when you carry multiple injury trust fund. That'd be that's what you're going through that's got a difference. And have y'all received a letter from the multiple injury trust fund?
We have.
House position is to fund a request at 4.6 million, roughly 400,000. What's the Senate position?
Yeah, we agreed to that.
All right, in agreement on the multiple injury trust fund. Good.
4,640,000.
Next item we have agreement on was the state emergency fund, 45 mil. Next item is the fund for LCF at Corpus. It was the Senate Bill 1433 that was sent over. I had some amendments on it, but we're carrying 350 million for LCF.
Yeah, we're not in agreement on the LCF additional to the corpus. We still, the BOE certified number had an expected balance of 299 million and some change. We feel like as we take a look at these current LCF projects, that we're plenty close and have plenty of money already that's in the LCF fund without needing to add any additional.
As we continue the discussion about LCF, I did have just a short conversation with you 2 evenings ago as you guys come off the floor for the retiring speeches. A comment was made, and I just want validation that the majority of these items here on the bottom, which would be projects for LCF or House requests. I'd like to point out the parking garage for DEQ, Senate request, new headquarters for OSBI, Senate request, the OETA transmitters. We agreed to that as a Senate request as long as it was funded through LCF. The RSU science building, 100% Senate request. We did agree to that for the agreement of funding 350 million for LCF. Do you recall any of those conversations?
I don't recall a conversation where RSU would be funded in trade for a $350 million deposit to the LCF Corpus Edition.
So I will take it that we're still at disagreement about 350 mil for LCF.
You're correct.
Attached to that, the House position would be to remove the DEQ parking garage, the OSBI headquarters, OETA transmitters, and RSU from our requested items to be funded.
Well, we can go to 0 on it. I mean, that's fine with us if you want to take all your projects out as well. I think the projects benefit districts, as you pointed out when I spoke about some bills, and you said, well, we have senators in those districts as well.
That's right.
And so points well taken. If you want to stay at 299 and not fund any LCF, we're completely fine with that.
House's position, we'd add an additional 350, but my point that I really want to make sure that everyone understands, this bottom box of the projects that would be funded was agreed to by negotiations and compromises to get to these positions.
Behind closed doors, and we've had that conversation ad infinitum, the behind closed doors in the dark are not. I think we can have a productive meeting today. I hope that's your desire as
It
well.
absolutely is.
And to try to retread that every time is not productive. However, if you want to talk about the merits or lack thereof on every project, we're open to that conversation. I would like to propose, we've talked, LCF is kind of perceived as your baby on our side. I've told you it has some merit. I believe it does have some merit, but we would like to propose that anything that we agree to that is funded like that anything $20 million or under is just cash, one-time cash. And I know LCF is cash. You've been abundantly clear on that.
I respect the Senate's position for that, but that has moved once again.
No, that has not moved since we've been having these open meetings. That has been consistent. Whether or not a former chairman sits up behind closed doors that I'm not privy to, I'm not sure.
Okay.
The Senate position has been consistent on that. We're leery of, we have $55 million in interest payments on debt currently. If we accept everything in LCF, we will move our LCF payment up to about 35 million per year, because we have 17 from last year, 17 and a half from this year, if we approved everything. At some point, that will eclipse the bonded indebtedness interest payments, and the pay 0% interest type deal, while it has a lot of merit, while we have cash, at some point you could get like DC, where you don't have any discretionary spending. We're not there. We're not anywhere close to there, but we've got to be very judicious in what we put in there, and we believe that it would be a fair compromise to anything that we agree to. That's 20 million in addition or above $20 million. We would LCF it as you would wish. Anything below $20 million, we would use our cash reserves to be able to pay for those.
Respect your position, hear your statement. Comments were made about not funding anything out of LCF, that the debt service of 20 years would outlive the life of the asset. Now we're at the 20 million threshold. I respect that, fair enough. The House doesn't agree with that position, but we can continue to have these conversations.
If you want any projects to go through LCF, we're going to have some kind of middle ground. 20 million may not be the appropriate cutoff. I'll give that to you. If you have a counter to that, we'll listen to it. If your counter is just everything goes through LCF, that will not be agreeable to us.
We can continue conversations, but just so everyone is aware, LCF is the state paying for projects with cash, and we can discuss.
We're talking about a one-time payment versus a payment over 20 years. Again, you put the totality. I understand. Like I said, it has a lot of merit with a lot of projects. We think it's more meritorious on the bigger projects.
All right, so we're still in disagreement about LCF, 350 mil. Well noted. I'll move to the next item.
So did you on your portal move to zero on all of those projects, the aforementioned that you wanted to go to zero to on?
The four mentioned projects, yeah, those were agreed to be funded out of LCF.
But
I don't
have
think
you
they're
removed
I don't
those?
think they're gonna meet your threshold, so I'm going to remove them.
And have you removed those in every subcommittee, your 20-year amortization on those?
Depending on negotiations, I will, but I have not at this time. Next item that we have is the retro 200 million for ODOT. I show that we're in agreement. Is that your belief as well?
That is my belief, yes.
Okay. Next item would be the prep funding 2.0, 250 million. I show that we're not in agreement, or am I mistaken?
Yeah, no, Mr. Chairman, I mean, I think that we're interested in having the Prep 2.0 discussion. I think that I think we need to work together on identifying those projects, so potential projects for Prep. We kind of tie that also into the 125 million water that we're carrying on our side. We feel like there could be a water piece to Prep 2.0. And so, as we did with Prep 2.1, we created a document that outlaid the projects that we were funding through Prep. And to this point, I don't think that we've had that discussion on what those Prep projects could be, how the money would be used, and prepare that list. So I'm more than willing to sit down and talk about the list. I just want you to know that we have an intention and a desire to include, some sort of water piece as it relates to Prep this time around, if we're not going to consider the 125 direct that we proposed.
Those conversations have been had. Former chairman and yourself had expressed that wanted 125 million for water projects. I believe there's an opportunity to have Prep 2.0, also have water projects. Discussion that we've had over the last few weeks, I'd say maybe a month, is where to house and the fund for the water projects. We will surely get there here in a little bit later. It's over in natural resources. We will have that discussion at that time. As you recall, for Prep 1.0, the funds were set aside, dedicated to go to the fund. Then the work began as far as listing projects. There are individual bills that will be ran for every project that will be funded out of a Prep fund period. It's my understanding that Commerce is working with all communities across the states in regards to needs for the industrial parks and We'll actually have a list put together probably next session for the exact projects that they believe that the legislature should consider, but nothing will be moved out of the fund until the legislature agrees on the projects that the legislature believes should be funded.
I agree. I just think around this table or at some point, I know that the Senate would like to discuss what those projects are, really kind of lay those out. I understand that there'll be individual bills. That's the way it should be done. So everybody can vote up or down on those. But I do think that there should be a discussion on the specific projects that we're considering as part of.
So if we're following the template from last time we did this, we agreed upon $250 million in the prep fund. We passed that. And then we negotiated what specific projects, once we knew the dollar amount that we had. And you came to my office with the non-negotiables from the Senate.
Right.
And we accepted those non-negotiables and then began negotiating, okay, what proposals will we pitch to the legislature? And so that's the process that we've done in the past.
I don't disagree that that's the way that happened, but what we want to do before we come to a number is we want to gauge the interest of and the desire for the House to be able to include water as part of Prep 2.0.
So what we discussed previously with yourself and Senator Thompson was not taking water out of prep, but was was both water and prep.
Well, I think it's now my desire that because I'm working, my predecessor isn't here anymore at this table. Certainly my desire to take a look at what can be done related to water through prep. We know that there is a dire need in Panhandle related to a water shortage situation there that affects about 2,100 employees in the Guyman area. We certainly want to see that that's addressed in some form or fashion. So as we have done in the past, I would like nothing more than to sit down with you and or your team and talk about those projects.
I want to remind everyone too, Prep 1.0 was in exchange for you all accepting the economic development project that the governor was pushing in Northeast Oklahoma. So we agreed to the position based on you coming to a position on trying to lure a major employer to Oklahoma. I'm not aware of any other type of thing that this 250 is tied to in any way, shape, or form. We are very interested in making sure that it doesn't get squandered. And we're very interested to make sure that we know where the prep funds have gone heretofore and make a fully informed decision. So we're not at a position to agree to a number.
Yeah. So what I would suggest is by putting the money in the fund, we're not also then authorizing projects. As the chairman said, we would have to vote on each individual project, such as the Guyman project, which is something we should do. I agree. Now, how we fund it, that'll have to come in negotiations. But what I think the House is suggesting is let's pencil in $250 million for the prep fund, $125 million for water, and now we have that there. Then when we circle back around, now we can start talking about, okay, if we're going to do this 20 million, what else are we going to do in that water bucket? What else are we going to do in the prep bucket now that we have dollar amounts set aside for it?
Just as you all have taken an articulated position on workforce and not wanting to put $100 million toward workforce without knowing what those projects are, I think this is entirely consistent. We need to know. Let's have a
We'll table it.
rough outline. Thank you.
All right, I think we can move on. We got a lot to cover today.
Sure.
Next item I have on the list that we're not in agreement in is the closing fund. House has booked the request for the last 2 years, not for the last 2 years, but the request has been for 2 years in a row now to have additional funds in the closing fund. The House is supportive of that idea. I have the question I think has come up in the past, what the balance of the closing fund is. You've got the same.
Yeah, I have that.
I have.
Just a little bit south of $5 million. $4,999,000 is the the current balance unencumbered is $27,999,000.
Must be a different document than I have. Down at the very bottom, the available funds for new projects is just shy of 3 million, 2.9.
I have 4.9.
We have a cash balance of 37 million in there, and there are some of these projects that have been encumbered for quite some time. So are you showing the $37 million cash balance?
Yeah, give me just a second. I'll pull it up.
When is your, ours is April 2nd. When is yours?
We have April 2nd. Okay.
Oh,
Which I would say, some of these projects are probably confidential. I don't know. I'm not gonna speak
We
in
have
terms
the-
of the projects.
So
This is
your document is different than ours.
This is document that I received when I asked about the budget on April 2nd date.
That's the same date as ours.
What was your bottom number?
$4,999,000.
yours? I'll give it back.
We received that last week. What's the difference?
That's what I was gonna look.
It may be that,
Project Rooster was not on that sheet on the same day.
Right here's a difference of 2 mil.
Maybe they sent one in the morning and one in the afternoon.
Okay. So, let's see what the difference was.
You want this one back?
You can keep that.
You see what the difference is, right?
Yeah, the additional project, as you mentioned, Rooster's been added.
Yeah.
According to the information the House received, the amount available for new projects is 2.9 mil, basically 3 mil. 2,999,300.
Again, I go back to some of the things that Protean mentioned. I mean, there's several projects under encumbered that have been on this list for a number of years. And it puts me in question of, how long will we leave encumbrances out there before they roll off and we make them available for other projects?
I think the House would be in agreement to put limitations on the length of time funds will be obligated, and if companies do not perform in a certain amount of time, the funds will be unencumbered, which they remain in the fund. I think we could get on board for that recommendation to have a timeline of however long you guys think might be feasible. I'm just gonna off the cuff say maybe 3 years.
But we don't wanna be, if we've already entered into agreements in good faith with companies, we need to look at those probably case by case.
I'm talking about new funds going into the fund. If they're gonna obligate something in the future, have an understanding for the legislature and the public that companies will perform within a certain timeline.
Well, I think we're talking about two separate issues. I think not counting what we may talk about by adding to the closing fund, I think that we would be in agreement that that kind of understanding would be important going forward for anything that we do.
We agree.
I also respect the fact that we may have agreements or an understanding if this would be prospective. I understand that.
but I didn't get a clear answer from the governor whether or not he was going to sign this budget or not. And this fund has been used in the past for some excellent things and some things also that we had no clue about. And so we'd want some clarity on that. We're not in a position to go to 20, or your request is to add an additional 20 under to bring it up to a cash balance of 57 million.
No,
Are you showing the cash balance the same cash? Well,
30,
I've got both
37,
those.
yes.
Yeah.
To bring the available balance for new projects to basically 23 mil.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna speak for the governor. I'm here negotiating in good faith, believing that we're gonna get a budget deal and we'll be sent to the governor and sign, if there's time.
There'll be time.
Yeah, we're not in a position to agree to the additional deposit as quick.
All right, we'll table the closing fund. Next item is the revolving fund, preparations for 10 mil for the marketing for the state of Oklahoma. House is in favor of funding that $10 million request.
Yeah, it is, it's right here. You all are showing this as a supplemental request, is that correct?
Yeah, we're showing it as one time, but we have it broke out in a separate fund so we can be able to track the expenditures out of the fund.
This is a request by the Lieutenant Governor.
It came in through Commerce. Yes, the Lieutenant Governor is the President of the Senate, but here's the document that I have on the request to benefit the state of Oklahoma.
Yeah, I've seen this.
I have seen it. This was a request from the Commerce Department.
Came through Commerce. I've had many conversations with many people. One of them did include the Lieutenant Governor, the others, business owners, other members on business recruiting trips, talking about the need for both closing fund and marketing for the state of Oklahoma to recruit business individuals, talent.
Yeah, well, he did take it up, it wasn't. Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, we don't have the $10 million request for commerce. It wasn't taken up in our SR 31. We've never had it on the book. I do have my subcommittee chair, Darcy Yeck, in the room today. I'd be curious to know if any communication had gone on with either Lieutenant Governor or Commerce related to this request. If you're amenable to it, I'd like to ask if you could.
I'm amenable. I just asked one question. Have you had any conversations in regard to this project or request?
So I have received a couple of contacts from the Lieutenant Governor making requests. I have not received one from Commerce.
You just come up here. Here you go. You come over there.
If it would be acceptable, can we ask our subcommittee chair to join the table as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd be fine with that.
Representative Newton, did you just walk in or have you heard the dialogue?
A little bit.
Okay. Well, to bring you up to speed, in case you missed out, we're talking about the request of $10 million for the marketing of the state of Oklahoma. There's some question of whether or not the subcommittee chairs, either House or Senate, have had any correspondence or contact with a request either through the Lieutenant Governor or Commerce. The request actually came through Commerce on the funding. So the Senate asked Chairman Yeck to join the table to have that conversation, and that's the reason you're here as well.
Thank you for repeating the question. I'm hearing the music a lot better from back there than I'm hearing you guys, so I appreciate that.
Senator Chairman Hall, he's asking for the question to be repeated. Do
No,
you want to repeat the
I believe
question?
you rephrased it to Chairman Newt, so I heard your question. I don't believe the $10 million, I don't remember that being a part of our conversations in subcommittee before. I don't recall any conversations with Lieutenant Governor, and I don't believe that was in an original ask. I could go back and check. It has not been a part of, we've had 3 subcommittee meetings. That has not been a part of our conversation. It wasn't a part of our resolution in week 7.
And Senator Yeck, it is a little hard to hear you.
I'll repeat then. I don't believe that's been a part of the original ask. Our subcommittee, Natural Resources Subcommittee, has met 3 different times. The $10 million for that request has not been a part of our conversations. Going back to our resolution in week 7, that was not included in the recommendation from the subcommittee at that point.
If I could ask a question of our staff, do you mind? So
Go ahead.
this document here, second budget request, do you have a date and who this is from and where it went? But as we all know, agencies must turn in their budget request to OMS, which ends up as translated and given to the legislature by October 1st. And then we also have a correction point at the first of the year for any additional changes or requests. And sometimes budget requests, I've noticed, have come in very, very late.
Hey, if the 10 million is your request and it's a request from Lieutenant Governor of the state of Oklahoma, we'll come to your $10 million number to market Oklahoma.
So to be clear, I heard you say if, or
I trust that you're relaying it honorably, and so we'll go to your $10 million number.
okay.
What's next on your?
10 million each. Next item that I have, I actually show that we're in agreement on the bombing memorial funds of 1.5.
Yes.
Is there any additional conversations needed? Okay. Next item I show that we're not in agreement is on House Bill 4063, conversation about law enforcement grants for pay. We have 20 million booked and none for the Senate.
Yeah, so I think our number one concern here, I also have the public safety chair in here as well, that that this was pushed down to their subcommittee for them to address. I think our number one concern is that when the bill, first of all, there's not a vehicle that's out there, you know, at this point that would address this that I'm aware of. The other concern that I had is when this bill was initially put out there, it was at $10 million to fund these grant programs, but yet it was woefully underfunded for the intended purpose for these grants. I think by our calculations, 10 million, which by the way, I think we were reflecting as one time when it first started out, would not have covered the intention of the bill. And so I think we're interested in seeing a grant program that better defines the intention, the intention of the bill. But again, I think our subcommittee and our subcommittee chair would tell you that we have, several concerns. I think the discussion related to bringing in the municipal police on that side of it, when we know that municipal police by and large in this state are paid more than the sheriffs. I think if sheriffs are an issue, then we ought to address that, on its merits. But the long-term effects of this are a little bit scary. Where does it stop? It's just to do a one-year grant program where the sheriff departments will be giving pay raises next year without the promise of anything. I think it puts everybody in a bind. So currently, right now, at the moment, I don't think that we're in agreement on this. I don't think that we can get there under any language that I've seen so far. It just doesn't make any sense.
So as I recall, the discussions that were had in regards to the bill, and then you're mentioning municipal officers being paid more than sheriffs, those conversations were good, robust conversations. We took those in, had conversations back in regards to capping the county size at 75,000 or less, and then the municipals would be 4,500 or less. I believe that when you look at the municipal pay in the communities that do not have a large enough population, they do not have a sales-based collection in regards to funding the municipal needs and services. So I would say probably in the metros, you're 100% right. Those municipal chiefs are getting paid more than county officers and sheriffs, probably by double. I do think there is a need, but we can table this at this time, and that is the stated position of the House. If you want to offer any other details of a different pay model, we're open for negotiation.
We're gonna need to table it.
All right, next item that we have is, and I wouldn't say that we're totally in disagreement. You guys have obligated $1 billion in savings. I think if you go to the top sheet, you'll see that we're still over $1 billion in funds available for appropriations. So I think semantics, but basically we're at the same place. Next item I have would be.
So you're coming to the $1 billion number is what you're saying?
If you'll go to the top front page, it'll show the appropriating authority and what we have left over on the portal there.
The reason I bring that point up is because on your Senate position, under agency request, House position, Senate position, that number is baked into the calculation of the Senate position as an expenditure. It's not baked into the House as an expenditure the way you have it told. So I think it'd be much more accurate to treat our savings the same way, because I think it's misleading to show $1 billion of savings as an expenditure, and when you do the side-by-side comparison on your portal, show us $1 billion higher than we really are.
So I know you've mentioned this a couple times and you don't like the way it's referenced or shown on the portal. The Senate has come out with a position, I believe, and stated that you want to set aside $1 billion for savings.
That's correct. $1 billion above and beyond the traditional
The
savings.
House has not done that. We've operated on a very conservative-based model. We still have well over $1 billion in available cash. Yes, it's considered savings.
Can you book the total amount of that on that column so that's a more accurate representation of the
I
side-by-side
don't think
comparison?
that's a request or needs to be done. The House is saying that we're not going to spend every cent. The Senate says you want to save. I mean, are you saying that you will back off the position of wanting to have it in a savings account?
No, we absolutely want to keep $1 billion in cash.
We're leaving it on there for you.
Well, I appreciate that, but I want the public to know, and I want your members to know, that's a very misleading comparison. So I appreciate it. We are very serious about not going below $1 billion in cash because we do know there will be storms of weather at some point. I think you are taking the same position. You're just putting it on the spreadsheet in a different manner, which is entirely misleading.
So, and I'm gonna ask your staff, but in the position that you guys are showing with setting aside and saving $1 billion, I actually showed the Senate is in a negative position because you're over obligated. I won't say you've overspent, but a negative of 21 mil.
That's a inaccurate description, but I appreciate you taking good care of us by
I'm just
showing.
tracking the numbers that I received.
Yeah, it's that's not anywhere near the truth. We're saying that $1 billion. I appreciate that you're acknowledging that we publicly want to have a allocation of the cash. You're saying a savings allocation. What we're trying to say is we're not spending $1 billion of cash. So rather than showing it on the expenditure side like you show on that page, we can move on. I just wanted to make sure that everyone is very clear that that's intentionally misleading.
That is not intentionally misleading. Yes, it does show that you sequestered $1 billion.
And you are
We have
suggesting
not.
you have not.
been prudent and worked on the budget. There's over $1 billion left in cash, yes, on the House pay.
So we're not, would you agree that we're not really $1 billion higher in spending than you on this as your side by side?
As I just stated a while ago, I won't say you overspent, but I believe you may have over obligated with your position.
But we'll have to agree to disagree. It's not going to be productive, but it is entirely misleading. Thank you.
All right, next item, I show that we have agreement on the next 3 items, which is council judicial complaints, state charter schools, both for the operations and then for the Horizon program. Numbers in respect are 300,000, 3.3 million, and then 3.4 million.
That's correct.
Okay, we have agreement there. Next item I show that we're not in agreement is Department of Wildlife Conservation. You guys have 3.5 million booked as an appropriation. We do not have anything booked based on the dialogue and conversations about Senate Bill 941, I believe. I might be incorrect on the license and fee bill that was showed to have a $10 million positive impact for the agency. If we pass that bill, should take care of that.
Pull it off.
So we're in agreement.
Yeah, we're in agreement there.
Okay, we will make that correction as well. Next line item I show that we are in agreement with would be the interstate oil compacts for mill. The next item I'm showing that we're not in agreement. We've had multiple conversations about this, but it is the workforce development revolving fund and the Senate Bill 1358, which is dead. I did receive a letter yesterday from the commission. I believe there's been conversations, I've heard it myself, that this was a senator's request, and I received a letter yesterday from the commission signed by Tim, the CEO. Did you guys receive the same letter?
I have not seen the letter. Thank you.
So, to sum it up, the letter says that they need 5 million. They want to be able to hire a director, staff, and do analysis surveying for the programs in which they would like to implement at some time workforce development programs. I have had some conversations yesterday evening that is truly the amount they need, or is there a number less than 5 million?
They delivered this to our office yesterday.
I haven't seen that.
First you saw it.
This is the first time I've seen it. I do know that, through the ARPA process, we did make some monies available in a revolving fund for the Workforce Commission. Certainly makes sense that, it's time to start developing a plan of action going forward. This may be a method, to get there. We have our subcommittee chair, Senator Pugh, and that could certainly talk to his vision for workforce. But it makes sense that it's time that we start to develop a plan. What I would propose, though, is that, that if we do something like this, make some funds available, and I think we could pull from the ARPA funds, just authorize it for this purpose, that we require a report, in pretty short order, maybe within a year's time period of what a workforce plan may look like, so that we can really sit down and consider what we would do to fund as it relates to funding workforce development and how we would go about it in the state. So
Yeah.
I just don't want it to, if we did something like this, I just don't want it to drag out. I want to report pretty quick.
Yeah, I would agree. We could do, if we were to do something, we do it out of ARPA funds. And if I, Senator Pugh, have you seen this letter?
Senator Pugh,
I know this is his
Senator Pugh,
baby.
if you've seen this letter, or if you want to come up and make some comments related to your workforce.
I just assumed they delivered it to all you guys yesterday, like they
I haven't seen it.
did ours.
Yeah, it was late afternoon,
Have you seen
3 o'clock or later, I'm not sure.
I've heard there was a letter being circulated, but it hasn't been sent to anybody's office, to my knowledge, on our side. It may have just been sent to you all, given the Senate's position on
Yeah.
workforce, but I had heard that there was a letter that was gonna be circulated. I wasn't aware it was already sent to you all.
Can I ask a clarifying question since I'm seeing this? I think every individual on here. No, I don't know Jeff Anderson, but I may have met him, so if Jeff Anderson is listening, I mean no disrespect. Especially if he's like one of my appointees or something, I apologize profusely. But this is not signed. And so is this just from the Tim Pearson, or is this from the commission writ large?
I don't know. I had a commissioner, one of the 9 commissioners called me yesterday and said, hey, there's this letter, you're probably gonna receive it later today, and then that was what was delivered to my office.
Which commissioner was that?
Randy Gilbert.
Okay.
That is a copy I had my office staff print off this morning, the original letter, and I think I might have it here in my file folder. It was brought in and hand delivered yesterday. I don't want to misspeak, but I recall a signature because I looked and it was Tim. Let me see if I can find that document.
Did he do that of his own volition?
I don't know. It just showed up in my office. I'm like, what is this?
But no, you didn't have a letter printed for him to sign, is what I'm asking.
No, it
No,
showed up
we didn't know it was
yesterday
coming.
while I was busy working. I'm like, what is this?
But I would suggest, since this is, y'all are just now seeing this, if y'all wanna call.
We do need to
Tim and Pearson,
digest
yeah,
this and
let's-
circle.
We were not planning to drop this as a bomb in the middle of the meeting. We just assumed you got the same letter yesterday.
Here's your, this is very nice paper. They must.
That was the very first thing I said.
Yeah.
All right, we'll table that.
That's how you know we didn't print it in the house.
I thought he said he did. That's where I was going with that.
Yeah, here's the one we printed. I'm sorry. Fill with that paper. So that was the original. I misspoke.
Okay.
So still no signatures and it's not dated either. Okay.
Yeah, we trust that you received it, but we need to do our own due diligence.
Fair enough. We'll table the workforce line.
Can I keep the copy version of it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
You can have that one or this one. Doesn't matter.
I'll take the poor man's
Same,
paper. I like
same
it.
words. I highlighted it for you. So we're gonna table the workforce commission, 100 million request. The next line item, I show that we are in agreement on, oh no, I'm sorry, we're not. Long-range capital planning. You guys have, and it's tied to the Senate bill, I think, 1252. You're carrying 500 million. We've got 335 million.
Yeah, so we've talked about this on the last couple of meetings that we've had. I think Chairman Wallace and Chairman McBride have a version of how they see the deferred maintenance funding to be administered. We're not in agreement on how that should be administered, nor are we in agreement on the dollars. I do think that we're working, those bills are going to conference, have every intention of working together with Chairman McBride and Chairman Wallace on coming to a plan on how the deferred maintenance would be handled, but we're not in agreement on so I've made a proposal on how that should be done. Now I've received a proposal from you, Mr. Chairman, on how that should be done, and we're not in agreement on those at this time.
All right.
But I do want to point out that it's my sense, and I think you all will agree, that it's the desire of both houses, the Senate and the House both, to address deferred maintenance needs in the state.
So the breakdown on that is tourism, OMES assets, and higher ed.
That's correct.
Do you know how much is in each?
So each version, the versions are a little bit different. Currently right now, there is a portion of at least in our plan, there's a portion that to go to higher ed, and then deferred maintenance, and then to parks. We have 60% of whatever the apportionment and the interest would be to go into higher ed, broken up into 75% and 70% and 30% for the 2s and 4s at 70%, and then the research universities in my version at 30% going to OU and OSU, and then the remainder would go to state assets and into parks. So I've seen your version that you gave me. I appreciate that very much. We did a complete analysis of it. I'm not necessarily in agreement with your proposal at this time, but certainly willing to sit down and continue to discussions. We've got time to do that. Those bills are in conference. It can run its way through the process.
Look forward to the dialogue. I'll just make one other comment, and I know that it's in the House version as well, having a percentage breakdown for the Regent piece. I would just make an open comment right here that I'm not sure that those percentages need to be in statute. That's something we can discuss.
So you've mentioned that to me. I understand where you're coming from. I think that my desire has always been from day one that we really focus a big chunk of this on the Russo schools and the smaller universities, as opposed to the research universities. So I think we're in a little bit of disagreement on the breakdown of that, but it's certainly my desire to really focus and intent on addressing the deferred maintenance needs for some of our smaller universities here in the state.
All right, we can table and continue discussions later. Next item I've got shows that we're in agreement for the emissions reduction technology, Senate Bill 1505.
Yeah, we are in agreement there.
50 mil. Next item I show that we're not is the House Bill 1788 Pregnancy Resource Tax Credit, we're carrying a cost of $5 million. You might have that in the revenue section, but in order to get it on the portal for the transparency, we have it here under miscellaneous.
Let's see. Hold on just a second, Mr. Chairman. I think that's over in DHS. We have Vice Chair Racino is here, the subcommittee chair. I'd like to call on him to address that. Senator Racino.
Yeah, thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, I thought we talked about this, that if we're going to fund that, it may come out of the choosing childbirth piece.
Sorry, my hearing aids were ringing. Could you restate that?
Yeah, I
Resource
think the
tax
pregnancy resource tax credit, I thought we were discussing that we could take that if possible out of choosing childbirth. We added 10 million to that. There's already several million in there already. I know Representative Beckles added 10 million to that this year.
Well, if it's acceptable with you, I'd call my subcommittee chair to the table as well, but
We agree.
I do recall there was many conversations.
And this is a revenue item we're discussing, whereas the choosing childbirth is an expenditure. So we're talking about two different.
Yeah, and I wasn't involved with that conversation, but I mean, I think they both are there. And I think on the 10 million, I think we're actually at like 15 or 17 million, but whatever's in the base and then an extra inside the Choosing Childbirth Act.
The tax credit.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. I think the tax credit is different. So I don't think you could fund the tax credit out of that money. In the Choosing Childbirth Act, that's a grant program. I had a bill with Pro Tem Treat, which we passed, that will allow more than one vendor to be able to do that. I appreciate your work on that, Mr. Pro Tem. But I don't know how that would work if we funded it, because it's a grant program.
Yeah, so I guess what my discussion is why can't we make it a grant program and just fund the 5 million? Instead of making it a tax credit, if we're gonna cap it at 5.
So you wanted to increase the choosing childbirth to 15 million increase instead of 10?
It would just be easier, and it can come from that same program.
So if that I think would put Choosing Childbirth at give or take, because we'd have the base that's inside Choosing Childbirth, which you guys would have to help me. It's 5.3. I don't know what the base is.
I think there's 3 left in there right now.
Good. So, and that's supposed to be an ongoing expense. You'd have the 3 plus the additional 10 that's in the budget would be 13. And then another 5, which would be 17, which would be a very good use of funds.
Correction, that'd be
18. That's what, that's, me know math good. So that's why, I mean, to me, I would get that, but that's up to the vice chairman. This is a project that's very important to me, the Choosing Childbirth Act, and I think we've done some good. And I think we made some changes to it.
So I guess it's my understanding, if we go down this path, and I think the vice chair agrees with it, we'll be adding the 5 million into the health department, is that right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
we have an additional, I believe, that was agreed to. Can we, if you don't mind, flip to health? I'm gonna book it there, but I want everybody to see it on the subcommittee of where we're at. So we were in agreement, to my recollection, last time at additional 10, and now we're gonna make that an additional 15. Is that correct?
Yes, and again, instead of just doing a tax credit, let's just fund it and be done with it. Again, these are good services that we need to provide.
So I'll follow the lead of our subcommittee chair, and we'll agree to that.
Does that require a JCAB bill to clarify those portion of the funds, or is that just,
I think you probably you either need a JCAP bill or you would need a limits bill, Mr. Pro Tem, one of the two, just to make sure. And again, the total would be 18 of the Department of Health money going into the Choosing Childbirth Act. I think you do it anyway.
we'll be agreeable to fine?
Yeah, I just want to make sure people understand this was supposed to be a tax credit capped at 5 million. So that 5 million would not be ongoing every year if it's going to be, if it was a tax credit as well. I just want to make sure we're good with that.
Yeah,
This is gonna be additional funds, so we'll have to be addressed again. I'm just excited we're making progress. We're taking up something that wasn't on the resolution 31.
We just agreed to a couple things there.
All right.
You pulled off 4 projects that you identified as Senate projects. We've agreed to a lot of yours, so the time's are coming, my friend.
We're making progress.
I just want to be clear, we're going to do this in a spending limits bill, the Choosing Childbirth side. Okay, all right.
and we're having some discussion down here. I think we're all on the same page that it'd be an increase of 15 million for a total of 18 million for Choosing Childbirth on a reoccurring basis. That would be, okay, good. I think we're on the same page.
Yes, the need is there year after year.
Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Pro Tem.
Next item I show that we're in agreement on is the county roads enforcement. I believe that was a bill. I don't have the bill number written down. 8.4 mil.
Yes, yeah, that's a
1403.
that's a bill that you and I worked on together. You sent a House amendment to, which would cap that at the 25 level, and I've agreed to accept the House amendments.
All right, that shows me closing out the miscellaneous section. Now moving on to supplementals. Avalon reimbursement, we've always funded that. We're in agreement at 78.4 mil.
We are in agreement.
Next item is Avalon reimbursement for House Bill
So they're in agreement.
1999 from 2022, 100% disabled veterans. House is carrying 5.6 mil roughly. Senate, I believe at one time was an agreement, and then that has come back off the sheet.
I think we can't hear down here.
I can't hear a thing.
We would be happy to move to one of our conference rooms or go to one of your conference rooms so people can hear. I mean, seriously. And we would accommodate the media or whoever else needs to move up there so we can hear each other.
With which is the speaker's conference room or your conference room? Which one's bigger? I genuinely don't.
Well, I don't think a conference, I'm talking about a committee room is what I would, so that you can have plugins and everything else for that. What time is it right now? Yeah, we could take a lunch break, work those details out and make sure that the public is fully informed about, I don't know how long this is gonna go on, but I need to find something, till 4 o'clock. And so I think it'd be wise so we actually don't agree to something we don't mean to agree to, or disagree on something we don't mean to disagree on.
Yes, we can here.
I would make use of any one of our committee rooms.
Probably one of the ones on 4.
Yeah,
Would make
yeah,
sense. The
yeah.
glass walls.
Yeah,
Mr. Pro Tem, would you repeat all that again? I can't hear you.
yeah, we do have, I mean, it's still on the second floor, but we have 230. It's behind another set of doors and it stays pretty quiet. We can check that out. We can come to some agreement. We just need to make sure we inform the public where we're going, but
And we have session at 1:30. Now, we'll be in till probably
that sounds like a you problem.
2:30 or 3. Yeah. You guys are welcome to negotiate the budget without the house.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Did you just authorize me to negotiate on your behalf?
I authorize you to pass whatever budget you can pass without the house.
You guys have a confliction, or can't be here at noon, so what time are you thinking?
We can be back at 1:30. We can be back at 1.
Shoot for, well, Mr. Floor Leader, when will we, 3?
Yes, I think
2:45.
3 is realistic. I could keep it short on the floor. We have presentations.
Yeah. Do you want to say tentatively 3 in room 230, which is our conference room? Oh, it's still on 2, but it's a lot quieter.
And we're all here. If we get done at 2:30, we can just text everybody and say,
Well, but for public transparency, I think we're proud to try to make sure we.
I think we know the members of the media. I bet they're going to be around here.
Yeah. So 2:30 or 3, depending on how quick the house gets to there.
2:30 or upon adjournment.
Oh, there you go. I like that even better.
Yeah.
I think it'd be helpful if we could hear each other.
All right.
I agree.
That
was free even before this.
Or 2:30.
Yeah, and I think we can get through a lot of this today. Not all of it.
The big ad valorem, not the.
I think we get all of it today. Yes, there you go.
Which I did appreciate that.